Welcome to Boyz in the Hood TV. Today we tapping into the streets of Long Beach, and we're gonna be talking about the Tiny Rascal Gang member, Ruel Hubert, aka Flamer, also known as Loki. Ruel Hubert was born in 1980 in the streets of Long Beach. The same year he was born was the same year that the Tiny Rascal Gang was formed in the neighborhood. Now the Tiny Rascal Gang, aka TRG, is a predominantly Asian American street gang formed by Cambodian teenagers in the early 1980s. Initially, Tiny Rascals only allowed Cambodian youth into the gang, but as the years went on, they opened doors and welcomed others from different races and different ethnicities. And amongst the new recruits was Flamer, who was also born and raised in the TRG neighborhood. By the time Flamer joined the Tiny Rascals, the gang had become a very violent force in the city of Long Beach. The Tiny Rascals at this time was already at war with the Eastside Longos and the Asian Boyz and other Crip sets like the Suicidal Town and the Insane Crips. And in the 90s, the Tiny Rascals had become such a threat in the streets that they were greenlit by the Mexican Mafia. Now the gang life was nothing unordinary for Flamer because he had an uncle who was a part of Suicidal Town Crips, which hood directly sits in Cambodia Town. But by the early 2000s, we would see Flamer go on one of the most violent rampages in Long Beach history. On November 26, 2003, a man named Shannon Cole was prepping for Thanksgiving when he heard a knock at the door. His wife would go answer the door, and someone would tell her, "Tell Cole it's an emergency." Shannon Cole would then walk to the door and look out the window. He would see one of his homeboys named Willie Davis, aka Baby D, and also Flamer was out there. Cole would then go to open the door, and he asked what was up. Baby D and Flamer both pulled out guns and said, "You know what the fuck's up." Flamer then pointed the Tech 9 at Cole's head. Cole would go to slap the gun down, and Flamer would pull the trigger. Cole was hit in the chest, but he continued to fight with Flamer over the gun. That's when Baby D shot Cole in his back multiple times as he fell to the ground. Flamer and Baby D would then immediately run away as Cole's wife called 911. Once the paramedics arrived, they would transport Cole to the hospital. Cole had been hit 7 times in the chest, shoulder, and the lower back, but ultimately he would survive his injuries. Cole would identify both Baby D and Flamer to the officers. Weeks later, on December 19th, Daniel Chenfa, aka Scab, and another man by the name of Tony Shamruan, 2 known well Suicidal Town Crips, were kicking it inside Daniel's garage. They would then walk into an alley and smoke a cigarette, when out of nowhere, Flamer from the Tiny Rascals would walk up and ask him what they were doing. Daniel would then reply, "Nothing, just smoking." Flamer then started banging on them, throwing up gang signs, and asking them where they was from. Daniel then would respond, "Suicidal Town." Flamer then would claim that he was from Insane. Now because Suicidal and the Insanes don't beef, Daniel would then let his guard down. Flamer would then ask Daniel if he smoked weed, and Daniel then replied yes. So Flamer insisted that they smoked some a little bit later on. And after the conversation, Flamer would walk away. And eventually Daniel and Tony would go back into the garage. A few hours later, while watching a movie with his girlfriend, Laura Thatch, Daniel would once again go outside to smoke another cigarette. A Honda Accord would then pull up, and Flamer from the Tiny Rascals would approach Daniel. Now Daniel is still under the impression that Flamer is from Insane Crip. Flamer would then ask Daniel, "Do you remember me from earlier?" Then out of nowhere, he pulled his gun out and opened fire. Daniel would be hit multiple times in the head, chest, shoulders, arms, and legs. Flamer would then hop back into the green Honda Civic driven by another Tiny Rascal member by the name of Mo. After hearing the gunfire, Daniel's girlfriend Thatch would immediately call 911, but by the time the EMTs arrived, Daniel was dead. Now days later, on December 24th, Tiny Rascal member Flamer will be driving down Olive Avenue at around 9 p.m. looking for a known Asian Boy gang member by the name of Woodty Bunong. Flamer and other members of the TRG had a confrontation with Woodty just early in December at the mall. So now Flamer was looking for him. Woodty and his girlfriend by the name of Navy Lay both owned a home on Olive Avenue. They had both just got back from a night out, and Navy would go back outside to make sure that the gate was closed. And as she looked out, she saw a dark Honda Accord, and she saw a man standing in the middle of the street, and that man was Flamer. Immediately, she ran back to the house and called out for Woodty. and Flamer then ran and started chasing after her and opened fire. Navy and Wood T would lock the house doors and wait for the shooting to stop. Eventually, Flamer would run back to the car and drive off. The police would be called and find out that this same Honda Accord also used in the murder just a few days ago, that the Tiny Rascal member that was driving his car was Mo, and the police would eventually track down Mo and arrest him on December 28th. They would match cell phone records, which would show that he had made phone calls to other Tiny Rascal Gang members during the time of the shootings. But after his arrest, on New Year's Eve, Asian Boy member Wood T will be driving down the 1400 block of Rose Avenue when suddenly, Flamer of the Tiny Rascal Gang will be coming in the opposite direction and will pass Wood T on the driver's side and open fire. Wood T will be fatally struck in his chest and he would lose control of his car and crash into a parked vehicle. Wood T would bleed out and would die from his injuries. By the time police and paramedics arrive, the police would find Wood T's gun on the floor with the safety still on. Eventually, the investigators would match the different shell cases from each shooting scene, and they will all match the same gun. Now, the very next day, on January 1st, 2004, Tiny Rascal Gang member Flamer, he and another TRG member would spot a man named Sacron Fan. Fan was sitting at his Honda Civic at a stop sign when Flamer and another Tiny Rascal Gang member would walk up and open fire. Fan was hit 3 times in the shoulder and in the chest, with one shot being fatal. By the time police arrived, Fan was found slumped over in the driver's seat with the engine still running and the music still playing. Ballistics would match the bullets from Fan's body to all the other prior shootings. And on January 5th, Tiny Rascal Gang member Flamer, police officers would notice him and give chase. Flamer would run, but eventually the officers would take him down and arrest him. Officers would retrieve a loaded .44 revolver from his waistband, the same gun used in the murders. Once arrested and in jail, Flamer would make phone calls to his auntie Patricia, who he would admit over the phone that he had shot someone. But not only that phone call, he would make numerous other calls making incriminating statements, which included witness intimidation. And in September, police would arrest and question a young Tiny Rascal Gang member by the name of MASSACRE Zen, aka Juvie. Juvie was a disabled gang member who stayed at the Tiny Rascal stash house, who would hide the guns and other items for the Rascals gang members. During Juvie's interview, he would give up information on Tiny Rascal gang members, which included Flamer, detailing how Flamer admitted to the multiple shootings. He would also show Juvie the guns that he used for the murders. By the time Flamer's trial came about, multiple witnesses would come forward and testify, including surviving victim Shannon Cole. Prosecutors would also play all the jail phone calls where Flamer incriminated himself in each shooting. After witness statements, physical evidence, and also self-incriminating statements, Flamer would be found guilty on 3 counts of murder and attempted murder. Flamer would be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 25-year enhancement for personal firearms and 10 years for gang enhancements. I want to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.